The alien classroom, Great Intergalactic University Space Station, floated quietly in deep space. Thousands of students from hundreds of planets gathered here to study, learn, and understand each other's species. For Zyra, a young female alien from planet Valtoris, this was her first time leaving her homeworld. Her soft violet skin glowed gently under the white lights. The long thin horns curved above her forehead, and her large purple eyes sparkled with curiosity. Everything about humans confused her. They were so different, so strange. Today's class was called Introduction to Human Biology. And Zyra had been waiting for it eagerly. The beginning of the lesson classroom was huge, filled with aliens of many shapes and colors. Some had wings, some had fur, others had multiple eyes or long tails. But Zyra's attention was on the human teacher, Professor Williams, a middle-aged man with kind eyes and a gentle voice. He smiled as he spoke to the class. Today, we will discuss one of the most unusual things about human reproduction. Zyra leaned forward, her ears twitching with focus. The shocking fact, Professor Williams continued, unlike many species that follow strict mating seasons or cycles, human males are fertile all year round. At any time, any day, a healthy human male can reproduce. The class went completely silent. Zyra's eyes grew wide. Her hand shot into the air. "Professor," she called, almost shouting. "Did you say, always, without a cycle, all year long?" The professor chuckled softly. "Yes, Miss Zyra. Humans do not have a mating season. Both males and females can reproduce at any time, provided they are healthy and willing." The class reacted. Several alien students whispered among themselves. A green-skinned student with 6 eyes mumbled, "No wonder humans are everywhere." A feathery student from planet Velia giggled, "Strange, very strange." Zyra couldn't hide her shock. In her world, mating was tightly controlled. Valtorian females only entered a reproductive cycle once every 3 years. Outside of that season, emotions like attraction or romance were strictly forbidden. But humans lived with emotions and attraction all the time. It was hard for her to understand. The curious human Molly's. The class continued. Zyra's eyes kept drifting toward one of the human students, sitting quietly near the front. His name was Ethan. Tall, with short dark hair and soft brown eyes, Ethan sat calmly, taking notes while the others whispered. Zyra stared at him, unable to stop thinking. "He is always fertile," she thought with amazement. Her face grew warm with a strange feeling she couldn't explain. The lecture continued as Professor Williams smiled as he explained more. Human relationships are built on emotional connections, trust, and free choice. We form bonds not just for reproduction, but for companionship, friendship, and love. Zyra raised her hand again. "Professor, does that mean humans feel attraction even when reproduction is not possible?" The class laughed softly, but the professor answered kindly, "Yes, Zyra, attraction can happen at any time for humans. Love and affection are not limited to biology." Zyra sat back, her mind spinning. This was so different from everything she knew. After class curiosity, when class ended, most students left the room chatting and laughing. But Zyra stayed behind, watching Ethan as he packed his books. Finally, gathering her courage, she walked over to him. "Excuse me, human," she said politely. Ethan looked up, surprised but smiling. "You can call me Ethan." Zyra nodded nervously. "I am Zyra. May I ask some questions about your biology?" Ethan raised an eyebrow, but chuckled. "Sure, though that's not usually how people start a conversation." Zyra blushed lightly, her voice honest. "Your species confuses me. I wish to understand." Ethan smiled kindly. "All right, ask anything you want." The first step is they walked down the hall together. Zyra began asking innocent, but very curious questions about human emotions, dating, and romance. Ethan answered patiently, finding her honesty both funny and strangely charming. For the first time, Zyra saw that humans were not just strange, they were fascinating. And as she looked at Ethan's kind eyes, something new stirred inside her, something her people never taught her about, a feeling she didn't yet have a name for, but soon she would. Asterisk meeting the human Molly's. Zyra and Ethan walked together through the wide halls of the university. Many students looked at them with curious eyes. It was not common for a Valtorian female to walk so closely beside a human male, but Zyra didn't notice them. Her mind was full of questions. Ethan smiled patiently, carrying his bag as Zyra fired question after question, the strange questions so You do not have any strict cycle for romance? Zyra asked, tilting her head. Ethan laughed softly. No. We don't have a mating season like many species. Humans can feel attraction at any time. Her large purple eyes widened again. Now, Ethan chuckled. Well, yes. Technically, yes. Zyra touched her chin, thinking hard. And you can feel emotional attraction without being in a reproductive phase. Ethan nodded. Double quotes exactly. For us, love is not only about biology, it's about feelings, connection, trust. Zyra stared at him, more fascinated than ever. Humans are truly strange creatures. The innocent curiosity. They walked into a small cafe area, where students from many species gathered to eat and relax. Ethan bought them drinks. A sweet fruit juice popular across many worlds. Zyra tasted it carefully, her face lighting up with surprise. Delicious, Ethan smiled. See, some human things are not so strange. Zyra smiled too, her sharp teeth slightly showing. Learning about emotions. They sat at a table by a large window, watching spaceships float outside in the docking bay. Zyra asked softly, do human males choose their partners freely? Ethan nodded. Double quotes yes. We choose whom we want to be with, based on how we feel. She lowered her voice. On my planet, emotions outside the mating season are controlled. We are trained to avoid feelings like this. Ethan looked at her kindly. That sounds very strict. Zyra sighed. It is. That is why I find your people so confusing. You feel so much, so freely. Her growing interest as the conversation went on. Zyra felt something unusual inside her chest. A strange warmth every time Ethan smiled. Her people never explained this feeling to her. Back home, emotions were treated like dangerous things to be locked away until the government approved. Season arrived, but here, talking to Ethan, she felt safe. Happy. Curious. And maybe something more. A moment of silence as they sat quietly for a few moments, both sipping their drinks. Ethan finally broke the silence. Zyra, may I ask you something now? She nodded quickly. Of course. Why are you so curious about humans? About me? Zyra blushed lightly, her soft violet skin glowing brighter. Because you are so different from what I was taught. You smile so easily, you listen without judging. You make me feel. She paused, searching for the right word. Comfortable. Ethan's heart warmed at her honest answer. I'm glad you feel that way. The start of something new. As they stood up to leave, Ethan gently offered, if you ever have more questions, or if you simply want to talk, you can always find me. Zyra smiled shyly. I would like that very much. They walked together down the hall, side by side. Many students still stared, whispering quietly, but neither of them cared. Something new had begun, a small seed of friendship, and perhaps something deeper waiting to bloom. Cultural shock turns into friendship in the days that followed. Zyra and Ethan met often. Their friendship grew quickly. Every conversation made Zyra more curious, and every question made Ethan smile. Zyra wanted to understand everything about human emotions, and Ethan was happy to explain, even when her questions were very strange. More strange questions. In the afternoon, they sat together in the library. Zyra looked very serious as she asked, so humans hold hands in public, even without being in the mating cycle? Ethan chuckled. Yes, holding hands is a way to show affection or comfort. It doesn't always mean something sexual. Her eyes widened again. You touch each other freely, and you can kiss anytime. Ethan laughed softly. Yes, if both people want to. We do not wait for government-approved seasons. Zyra shook her head in amazement. Your species lives dangerously. Ethan smiled. Or maybe we live more freely. The first touch letter that day, as they walked side by side through the space garden. Zyra suddenly stopped. She turned to Ethan and asked, may I try holding hands to understand this comfort? Ethan's heart jumped, but he stayed calm. Of course. She carefully reached out and placed her soft violet hand in his. At first, she was stiff. Then her fingers slowly relaxed. A strange warmth moved through her chest. It feels safe, she whispered. Ethan smiled. That's the point. They continued walking, hand in hand, learning about love over many evenings. They talked more about human emotions. Zyra learned about dating, romantic love, marriage, and lifelong partners. She listened with wide eyes, fascinated. You humans, allow your hearts to lead your lives, she said one evening. Ethan nodded. Double quotes yes. We believe that love and connection make life meaningful. Zyra looked thoughtful. But what if your heart chooses badly? What if you are hurt? Ethan answered, gently, then we heal, learn, and try again. That's part of being human. Her respect for him grew stronger with every word. Others began to notice in campus. Students began whispering when they saw Zyra spending so much time with Ethan. It was unusual for a Volturian to form a close friendship with a human. Her Volturian friends warned her, be careful, Zyra. Humans are emotional. They will confuse your mind. But Zyra shook her head. I want to understand, and I want to feel. A new feeling on evening, after a long walk. Zyra and Ethan sat under a large glowing tree. The artificial stars above the space station winkled softly. Zyra looked up at the stars, then softly whispered, Ethan, I feel something strange when I am with you. Ethan's heart beat faster. Strange. She nodded. Warm, light, happy, but also nervous. Ethan smiled gently. That's called attraction. You're feeling connected to someone, maybe even starting to like them. Zyra blushed. On Voltoris, we are taught to avoid these feelings until the proper season. But it feels so beautiful. Ethan looked at her kindly. You're free to feel here. No one controls your heart. A bond growing stronger that night. Zyra lay awake, thinking about everything. For the first time in her life, she allowed herself to enjoy these strange emotions. Her heart was opening. Her friendship with Ethan was slowly turning into something deeper. Something her people had never taught her about. Something she now quietly hoped to explore. Asterisk the forbidden feelings days passed like soft waves. Zyra and Ethan spent more time together, studying, laughing, talking about their worlds. Their friendship had grown deep and comfortable. But inside Zyra's heart, something stronger was happening. Something her people would never allow. The inner conflict-torn night. Zyra sat alone in her room. The soft glow of the space station lights filled the air, but her mind was full of questions. She placed her hand over her chest, feeling her heart beat faster every time she thought of Ethan. I am not in mating season. She whispered to herself, this should not be possible on Voltoris. Feelings like this were not allowed outside the approved cycles. To feel attraction, to desire closeness outside that time was considered dangerous, forbidden. But humans lived differently. Ethan had shown her a world where emotions were free, and now her heart was confused. Advised from home next day, she spoke with one of her Volturian friends, and IRA looked concerned as she listened. Zyra, you must stop this friendship. She warned, you are feeling things that are not allowed. The elders will not approve. Zyra lowered her eyes. But I feel happy, safe, alive. Nira shook her head. You are playing with dangerous feelings. Humans live by emotion, but we are not. Like them, Zyra whispered softly, maybe we should be. A human heart lure that evening. Zyra met Ethan at their usual spot under the glowing trees. She sat quietly for a long time before speaking. Ethan, may I ask you something very personal? Ethan smiled gently. Of course. You can always ask me anything. Her voice shook. If a human feels something forbidden, do they hide it? Ethan thought for a moment. Sometimes, but often, we believe it's better to speak the truth, even if it's scary. Zyra's hands trembled slightly. Even if others disapprove? Ethan nodded. Feelings are not wrong, Zyra. What we do with them matters. But feelings themselves, they are natural. The first confession, Zyra's voice grew even softer. Ethan, I feel something for you, something strong. Ethan's heart beat faster, but he listened carefully. I feel happy when I see you. I want to be near you. I think about you when I'm alone. But my people say these feelings are forbidden outside of mating cycles. She looked into his eyes, almost afraid. Am I broken? Ethan reached out gently, taking her hand. No, Zyra, you are not broken. You are simply feeling love. Her eyes widened. Love. Ethan smiled softly. Yes, love happens when you truly care for someone. When you want to share your life with them, it's not just biology, it's your heart. The risk of choice is Zyra whispered. But what if my people reject me for this? Ethan answered calmly. Love is always a risk, but sometimes it's worth everything. Tears filled Zyra's eyes. No one had ever spoken to her like this. She squeezed his hand gently. I don't want to hide this anymore. I want to feel freely. Ethan's voice was warm and soft. That we will face it together. A bond becoming loving in a quiet moment under the shining artificial stars. Their friendship became something more. Their hearts were now fully open. Even though the road ahead would not be easy, neither of them was afraid anymore, because love had found them, even in a world that tried to control it. The public incident University Space Station was busy as always. Aliens from every part of the galaxy walked through wide glass halls, talking, studying, and laughing. But today, Zyra felt nervous. For the first time, she was meeting Ethan in public, in front of everyone, not just as a study partner, but as something more. Her heart beat fast as she saw him waiting by the garden fountain. Ethan smiled warmly as she approached. "Good morning, Zyra." She smiled back, her voice soft. "Good morning, Ethan." They walked together through the large campus square. The whispering starts of their students noticed them immediately. Whispers spread through the crowd. "Look, the Voltorian girl and the human again. They're spending too much time together. Is she violating her people's rules?" Some stared with curiosity. Others stared with silent judgment. Zyra tried to stay calm, but the stares made her nervous. Ethan gently touched her hand, speaking softly. "Ignore them. Let them talk." His kindness gave her strength. She squeezed his hand gently. The unexpected added suddenly, one of Zyra's own classmates, Torik, stepped in front of them. Torik was a tall Voltorian male. His voice, cold and sharp. "Zyra, you bring shame to our people." Zyra froze, her heart racing. "Torik, please step aside." But Torik continued loudly, attracting more attention. "You know our laws. You are not in season. This closeness with a human is forbidden. You risk dishonor for your whole family." More students gathered around, watching. Some whispered, some stared. Ethan stands up before Zyra could speak. Ethan stepped forward calmly. His voice was steady, but strong. "She is not breaking any human law. She is free to choose who she spends time with." Torik sneered. "You humans know nothing of our ways." Ethan replied firmly, "Maybe, but I do know this. No one should be forced to live without feelings. Zyra is not your property, not your decision." The crowd grew silent. Some students nodded quietly, agreeing. Zyra finds her voice as Zyra took a deep breath, her voice shaking but brave. "Torik, I choose this path. My feelings are real. You have no right to judge me." Her hands trembled, but she stood tall. "I am not ashamed." The crowd watched in quiet surprise. No one expected a Voltorian female to speak like this in public. The professor steps in suddenly. Professor Williams appeared from the side, his voice calm but strong. "That's enough, Torik." The professor looked at the growing crowd. "This university is a place of learning, not control. We study each other's cultures to learn respect, not to spread fear." Torik growled softly, but backed away, defeated. The crowd slowly began to disperse. A stronger bond when the crowd was gone. Ethan turned to Zyra. "You were brave." Zyra's eyes filled with tears, but she smiled. "You gave me courage. I don't want to hide anymore." Ethan gently placed his hand on her cheek. Then, "We won't." Together, for the first time in public. Zyra rested her head softly against Ethan's shoulder. They stood quietly. As the glowing tree swayed above them, the gossip spreads. The next day, everyone at the university knew about the incident. Some judged them, but others admired their courage. The story of the Voltorian girl who dared to love a human became the center of every conversation. And in the middle of all this noise, one simple truth grew stronger. Their love was real. The emotional confession incident in the public square changed everything. Zyra and Ethan knew that many eyes were watching them now. Some people whispered quietly, others openly stared, but neither of them cared anymore. Their bond had grown strong, stronger than fear, stronger than rules. And now, something inside Zyra was ready to bloom fully. The quiet evening that night, they met in their usual place. The peaceful glowing garden under the artificial stars of the space station. The soft lights danced above them as they walked slowly together. Ethan gently held Zyra's hand. Feeling her warmth, they both stayed quiet for a while, listening to the gentle hum of the wind machines that kept the garden alive. Finally, Zyra stopped walking. She turned to face him, her large purple eyes shining softly. "Ethan, I need to say something." The breaking harder voice was quiet, but full of emotion. "I was not supposed to feel like this. My people taught me to control emotions outside meeting seasons. They told me feelings like this are dangerous, shameful." Her hand trembled as she continued. "But you showed me something different. You showed me kindness when I was only curious. You answered my silly questions. You never judged me. You respected me, Ethan watched her gently, letting her speak. Tears filled her eyes, and slowly, you became my safe place, my happiness. Her voice broke. I tried to fight it, but I can't anymore. The full confession took a deep breath, and her words came out softly, but firmly. Ethan, I love you. The words hung in the air like soft music. For a moment, the world stood still. Ethan's heart swelled. His chest tightened. His eyes glistened. He stepped closer, softly cupping her face in his hands. Zyra, I love you too. From the very first moment you asked me that strange question in class, my heart was already curious, but now my heart is yours. Their first true kiss. For a moment, they simply stared into each other's eyes, hearts beating together. Then slowly, Zyra whispered, is it allowed to kiss you now? Ethan smiled warmly. Only if you want to. Zyra smiled back, and softly, she leaned forward. Their lips touched gently, warm, soft, full of tenderness. It was not rushed. It was not wild. It was full of trust, safety, and deep love. For Zyra, it was her very first kiss, and the most beautiful moment of her life. A love without relentless. As they sat together afterward, holding each other, Zyra whispered, I never believed I could feel this free. My people never taught me about love like this. Ethan kissed her forehead. That's because love is not something you are taught. It's something you feel. Zyra smiled softly, resting her head on his shoulder. And I never want to stop feeling this. The quiet promise soon of the glowing stars. They made an unspoken promise to each other. They would walk this path together, no matter what others said, because love had found them. A love that no rules could stop. A love that breaks through. The story of Zyra and Ethan quickly spread across the entire space station. Some whispered with surprise, some with anger, but many whispered with quiet admiration. A Voltorian female had fallen in love with a human, without any mating season, without government permission, and without following the strict rules of her people. Facing the elders a week later, Zyra received a message. The Voltorian elders had called her for a meeting. They had heard about her relationship. Now they wanted answers. Ethan walked with her to the council hall. Before she entered, he gently squeezed her hand. Whatever happens inside, I'll be waiting for you right here. Zyra smiled bravely. We face this together. She stepped inside. The council's question-shaped elders sat in a high circle. Their faces serious. The leader, Elder Vorin, spoke. Zyra, you have broken tradition. You allowed yourself to feel love outside your cycle. And worse, with a human. Zyra stood tall. Her voice was clear. Yes, Elder, I have broken your tradition, but I have not broken myself. The elders frowned. You risked dishonor. Zyra's eyes shined brightly. No, I have found honor in love. Real love, not controlled by time or law. A new voice among Themon younger council members spoke softly. Perhaps the rules are too old. The galaxy is changing. Maybe we should allow new ways. The room grew silent. The elders whispered to each other for a long time. Finally, Elder Vorin spoke again. We cannot control every heart. We will not punish you, but know this. Your choice may bring challenges. Zyra bowed her head politely. I accept that. She walked out, her heart full of peace. The new life outside. Ethan was waiting, his eyes full of hope. When he saw her smiling, he knew. It's done. Zyra nodded. Double quotes. Yes. They will not stop us. Ethan pulled her into a warm embrace. Then let's live our life together. Their first home. Weeks later, Zyra and Ethan moved into a small living space together. They built their home slowly, planting glowing trees in the garden, adding colorful lights, and filling the rooms with laughter. Other interspecies couples came to them for advice, inspired by their courage. Zyra became a quiet leader for those who wanted to follow their hearts freely. One quiet evening, under the artificial stars, Zyra rested her head on Ethan's chest. The soft wind touched her hair as she whispered, humans are strange, always fertile, always feeling, always loving. Ethan chuckled softly. And yet, you fell for one anyway. She smiled. Yes, and I would choose you again, every single day. Their hands joined gently, fingers locking together. Around them, the stars shined brightly, as if blessing their love, a love that had broken old rules, a love that was finally free.